was Sunday, Monday and Tuesday went by. It wasn't on a Tuesday afternoon. All I could do was cry. But I made a promise that you treasure. I made it back home to you. How I've waited for this moment to be by your side. Your best friend wrote and told me you had teardrops in your eyes. Daddy's home. Daddy's home to stay. Daddy's home to stay. I'm not 1,000 miles away.
Greetings and welcome, relatives. I'm Osvaldo Ozzy Cruz, Senior Manager of Education and Families Initiatives with the National Compadres Network, and your host for today's webinar. Want to just make some housekeeping logistical announcements that the webinar is being recorded. It's also being streamed live via Facebook, so if you care to share that with your colleagues, relatives, friends, feel free to do so. Want to encourage you throughout the webinar presentation for you to engage with us. Utilize that chat function via comments to affirm potentially some of the teachings, some of the lessons learned that we'll be sharing. But before we continue to move forward, I do want to acknowledge our support staff with us this afternoon, our Vanessa Reyes, our training team assistant, who supports a lot of the logistical work and announcements, as well as Miguel Osuna Sanchez, who's our communication specialist, and Ariel Jimenez, our La Cultura Cura coordinator. Combined, along with the maestros and our panelists, we do all of the work to try to be able to create an opportunity to share teachings, right, through this virtual space. And I want to remind folks that today's webinar is a part of our ongoing Sacred Manhood Initiative. The focus is uplifting positive values that are inherited within our culture, that exist, the traditions, the practices that support us in being good in our relationships, right? And taking on the roles and the responsibilities, right? And maintaining healthy relationships. Today's webinar, Grandfather's Wisdom, the generational story healing from Tatas, the Babas, and the Grandpas, will allow us to share some of those lessons learned, in our road as grandfathers. But before we get into the actual plática, the conversation, I want to ask Maestro Jerry Teo if he can offer some grounding words to allow us to be present, to allow us to listen to what needs to be heard. You're muted, Maestro Jerry.
I want to thank you all, and thank you, Ozzy, and all the staff and all the elders, the viejos, the OGs that are here, sitting here. What a beautiful day, beautiful time to sit with you all. And I just want to take a moment, and bring you all into this as well as we I'll take a deep breath and breathe in that deep breath of gratitude. And as we sit here, we give thanks for the gratitude of another day of life, another day of breath, another day of being able to learn and to listen and to heal and to share. And as we sit here, we want to give thanks for all those ancestors that came before, that left us these teachings, these blessings, these lessons this way, and recognize that they also traveled through trauma and struggle, and that's why we do the work we do to heal those generations. And we give thanks for all our relations, all our family members, our mamas, grandmas, tias, sisters, our children, grandchildren, and all the other men, grandfathers, tatas, all those in that gender spectrum that come from every place. They're all sacred. We learned that way, and we give thanks for all the teachers and the healers, the advocates, those people that struggle so hard to make sure that everyone sacredness is felt in that way. And I especially just want to thank the brothers that are on here today, Baba Arnold and Maestro Papa Bear Cardenas and our brother over here, Elder Nane, Nane, I just want to thank you, brother, for we're just talking about, low riders and cruising and all of that. And also, even though he's young, he's a grandpa too, He says he's the handsomest grandpa around, Ozzy Cruz. So, you know, but just want to thank you, Ozzy, for hosting us today, and thank everybody. And hopefully what we shared today is going to be help us in terms of carrying on the medicine, the teachings, the beauty, the lessons, and maybe our next generation will have less wounds and less struggles to go through.
Thank you, Maestro Jerry. I want to begin by acknowledging all of you, the Babas, the Tatas, the Maestros for being on and accepting the invitation, to share a little bit about your life lessons learned and teachings. And I want to acknowledge that I too am a grandfather. I was sharing with Baba Arnold earlier today that somewhere in the grandparent manual it says that the introductory stage to grandfatherhood, I think, is 0 to 6. So that's where I'm at. I'm a grandfather to my granddaughter Aliyah Madison Cruz, age 6, and then my grandson Jace Rafael Cruz, who's 5. And so even though I'm here hosting and guiding the conversation, I'm here to learn. I'm here to see what I can hear from my elders and the grandparents that support me in establishing good connections with my grandchildren, and at the same time continue to nurture my relationship with my children in that process. And so I want to thank you and acknowledge you for joining us. I want to create an opportunity for all of you to introduce yourself in the way in which you want to introduce yourself. So I'll call out your name and then invite you to introduce yourself. So if we can, I'd like to invite you, Baba Arnold, if you can introduce yourself.
First of all, it's an honor and blessing to be on this webinar with my brothers. It thrills my heart. I want to ask for the blessings of the ancestors to bless us as we share today, and to guide our voices and to be in our hearts, and make us come forth and share with each other. And no one is better voiced than the other ones. That we're all equal. We're all children of the ancestors. So I want to give them praise. So I'm the great grandson of Charles and Charlotte Perkins, the great grandson of Prince and Elizabeth Perkins, the grandson of William and Euphemia, and the son of Arnold Gaston Perkins and Jessie Leona Starks Perkins. My other half, the important part of my life, is my wife, Karen, my wife and friend, Karen. And then we have 4 sons, ranging in age from 60 to 38. We have 4 grandchildren, 2 granddaughters and 2 grandsons. The universe knew that I shouldn't have a daughter because I was spoiled her to death. So these are my grandchildren. I have an interesting family. So my oldest son is white, my next son is black, my next son is black and white, and my last son is black and yellow. So if I were to use colors, and with strong native roots, and of course, very strong African roots. So we're a loving family, and our family, we have a phone call every Sunday at 10 o'clock, and we're in different parts of the world. So this is my family. I'm very proud of them. I love them very much, and just blessed to be a part of this gathering. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you, Baba Arnold. If I can invite Papa Bear, Maestro Isaac Cardenas.
It's really a happy time for me to be with all my Taguans, all my friends. And I want to say Chumanab, good evening. Isaac, Papa Bear Alvarez Cardenas. I come from Wanaka, Wapupaco, Yanawana, commonly known as San Antonio, Texas. I'm the great grandson of Jose Manuel Villegas, and Maria Guadalupe Rodriguez. And it goes on and on, all the way to my mom and dad, that were relatives and ancestors from Mission San Antonio de Valero, commonly known as the Alamo. So I just want to say, Chumanam, I'm the son of an Inde, Apache, and Naminu Comanche mother, Aurora, who's an ancestor now. I lost her October 1st. And I'm the son also of my father, Dan Hernandez Cardenas, World War II veteran, liberator of Italy, Germany, France. I'm a husband of my high school sweetheart, Sylvia Ann. We've been married 45 years. And sons Michael Isaac Whitecliffe and Jason Adam Blackcliffe, and and Marissa are the ones that gave us 2 grandchildren. My grandson Nicholas and my granddaughter Kylie Bell, who have really grown so fast. And I'm also a veteran. A shout out to all the veterans. Welcome home of the United States Marine Corps. And again, I'm honored to share some thoughts and some stories for our wellness of our families, for the healing of our families. And I'm also a Kona prayer leader for the Tapilam Kwahuitecan Nation here in Wanaka, Wapupaco, Yanawana. Prayer leader, spiritual leader, a storyteller. So a lot of storytelling to the grandchildren. Thank you. Tamok, spirit.
Tamok. Thank you, Papa Bear. If I can invite Maestro Nana Alejandres, if you care to introduce yourself.
Gracias. Thank you. The internet sometimes is interfering. So that's why once in a while I'll just get off camera. Pero gracias. Thank you for that rolita at the beginning. My brother Gaylord in Chicago, they call him Dusties, and the oldies have always been a part of my life. And that particular song, a lot of people think, well, it's a love song. It is a love song, but when a lot of us, the daddies were not home, for whether it was war, whether it was prison. Home today. I've been home, for a while. So at some point in my life, I was home, but I wasn't home, and so it's a classic, and
Maestro Nane, your audio is cutting off. If you can hear me and if it's helpful, if you want to disable your camera just to minimize.
Hi, fellas. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. We can hear you clearer now. Thank you.
Okay.
So we might have missed the last 30 seconds or
that
so.
particular song, we played it. The song Daddy's Home, the meaning of it, not only a love song, but talking about in home, was from war, it was from prison, or from just being out there in the madness, to our daughters, to our sons, and that song has a lot of meaning in my life for all those reasons, But today, I want to say that I'm home, I'm home not only to my family, but creators allow me to be home for a lot of other folks, a lot of nephews, a lot of, to be in this group with all my comrades here is an honor, and just trying to manage technology today for me, it's a challenge. So I'm trying to keep everything simple. But now today is like um, honoring the life life and as Papa Bear said, veterans. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I'm glad to be home. And I am the son of Leo Alejandres and Herminia Alejandres Tejanos. And my father and my grandfather were Pachucos. They were from El Valle. They were from San Anto, El Paso, and Lubbock, and all the Tejanada, know. And so I try to keep that tradition going. I try to keep some of the stories of the Pachucos involved in my life every day. So honored to be here today. Oh.
Thank you, Maestro Nane. And I'd like to invite you, Maestro Jerry, if you'd like to introduce yourself also.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
You know, just so humbled again. Jerry Teo, my dad, Jorge Perez Teo from Tapilan, Comitecan roots as well. My mom, Maria Susa Lague Ramos, and met, and some of us born in San Antonio, moved to Los Angeles, and raised us in Compton and in Watts, in that barrio, the Black Brown neighborhood, and so a lot of teachings that came from there. Realized a lot of teachings, you know, from my grandmas and the elders in that community, the OGs, the veteranos that took care of us, that taught us, that schooled us up, you know. And over those years, you know, learned a lot about how to be and how not to be. You know, didn't recognize that a lot of the wounds that came from, you know, my own grandparents and my parents were wounds from this society and from, you know, the colonization and all of that. And so when we talk about being a grandpa or even being a father, you know, I had to do a lot of reflecting on my own dad, who died when I was 13, you know, just trying to figure out, okay, what did he leave me? And what do I need to carry forward? And what do I need to limpiar, cleanse, and let go that way, you know? I'm blessed that, you know, I have a compañera Susana that has helped me. You know, she's the heart, the women. And I want to acknowledge the women. I want to acknowledge the mothers, our grandmothers, our sisters, our compañeras that have always walked with us, that have always loved us, that unconditional love, that unconditional, and sometimes, you know, even, you know, made us accountable, hit us up, you know, put that mirror in front of us, you know, but the women nation have always, you know, taught us and been right there to bless us up and to love us and to pray for us so that we could be better men. And, you know, between the two of us, we have 5 children and 6 grandchildren, you know, Amara, Naya, Grayson, Harrison, Vivian, and Elias, you know, and, you know, his grandchildren, see my little granddaughter, she's teaching me how to play this game over here, you know, and, you know, they teach us, these grandkids, keep you young that way, you know, but as Nane said, and, you know, a number of the other elders said, you know, there's a number of people all across this country as we've been working that call us Tata, they call us Grandpa. You know, before they would call me Tio, now they call me Grandpa. We're older now, you know, but so the role we play is really important. I want to acknowledge, you know, all those that have taught me and healed me and embraced me along the way, so that we can be here to share these stories that are really about healing our people. Muchas gracias. Él es Dios.
Él es Dios. Thank you, Maestro Jerry. And before we jump into the actual conversation, I too want to acknowledge my parents, Maria Carmen Caro, Dueñas, my father, Jose Javier Cruz, may he rest in peace, my wife, Jacqueline Cruz, and you know, my children, my oldest son being Osvaldo Cruz Jr., my oldest daughter, Alex Andrea, my younger children, Daniel and Sofia, and here you see my oldest son and his family, my grandchildren. You know, as we begin this discussion, the first question is to invite all of you, and if I can direct this question to you, Baba Arnold, is to share with us what teachings or values you think are important to pass on. And if I can take some liberty just to share that it was perfectly role modeled, that I think that what's important is how we introduce ourselves and who we're connected to. And I think that oftentimes I need to be reminded of that. And that I need to ensure that my children don't forget that they're connected to family, that they're connected to a people. And so I wanted to ask you and invite you, Bob Arnold, if there's something you'd like to share in reference to, what do you think is important to pass on as a teaching and or a value?
first of all, family. I mean, I think that that's the most important thing in my life is family. And I could give you a number of examples of that. Secondly, honesty. So in our practice on Sundays, we've been doing it since March 2020, every Sunday, 10 o'clock. The grandchildren can ask any question that they want to ask, and anyone on the call must answer it in an honest fashion, even if it's uncomfortable, because I want them to be people of integrity. And there's nothing more important in life than love, integrity, and honor. I remind them that they're Perkins, and that means something. That's just not an Arnold Perkins. That's nothing idle. I talked before about the ancestors that went before me, and they gave me a name, Arnold Perkins, and that's a sacred name. And I want my grandchildren to understand that names are sacred, whether it's for them or for other folk. And I could go on, but those are some of the tenets: love, family, honor, integrity, truth.
Appreciate that, Baba Arnold. And you know, what a beautiful thing to be able to have a space, a safe space, to ask the uncomfortable questions, right? That oftentimes when we don't ask them, we seek for answers, knowing that the answers are within the family. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing that, Baba Arnold. But before we move on to another question, anyone else care to share what they feel is important in reference to teachings? Well, this is passing on to not just our grandchildren, but also to our children. You know, I am always reflecting that even though I carry many roles, I don't stop being a father just because I'm a grandfather, right? And so want to offer an opportunity if anyone else here wants to share.
Yeah, I'll share. You know, in our language, grandfather, there's two words for grandfather, but or two contexts. If it's the grandfather of the mother, it's Naquan. And if it's the patriarchal grandfather, Pucal. So that's who I am. They call me Pucal. And I tried to get them to start saying that as grandchildren, and it started saying poo poo, and no, Pucal, you know. And then later on, I said, you know what, Papa Bear, and that's how they know me as Papa Bear. So much so that my grandchildren asked my wife Sylvia Ann, "Is Papa Bear your husband?" Because I'm a big kid, you know. So they didn't know if I was her husband or her son. So, but I guess like Arnold said, family, you know, and for us as Native people, Tapilam people, Coahuitecan people, clan traditions, you know, and who they are, where they come from, you know, our language that you heard a little bit of our language words, whether it be Coahuitecan, Spanish, or English. And then, you know, a lot of the pictures that I have of us, the grandkids, learning exhibition dancing and powwow dancing. They participate and compete. And I really feel that those lessons and those words that I share with them, because I'll ask them, you know, I'll say, "Are you Native American?" And they'll say, "We're Tapilam," which means people of the earth. And I don't want them to say, "Well, I'm Native American," or "I'm Indian," or "I'm indigenous." No, you're Tapilam. You're people of the earth. And they've got that, you know. And I guess they're only going to learn if I spoon feed it to them. And that's the thing I want them to be able to tell their grandchildren, you know, and leaving recordings like this, you know, for them to see, oh, that's our great grandfather, you know. I think that's so immense. And right back here behind me are the grandkids. And then that writing right there, that's our genealogy for the missions for San Antonio de Valero, the Alamo. So let them know that they can have that honor and that acknowledgement. Tamok.
Tamok. Appreciate that, Papa Bear. You know, and as you were sharing, it's, technology can be a blessing, right? When we become the ancestors, that there's something that was captured there, that I can see my grandfather's face, that I can have a reference point to what he left for us to learn from. So appreciate that, Papa Bear. Brother Nane, if I can invite you to share with us if there have been or are any particular challenges of grandfatherhood. And we recognize that they're not just challenges for grandfathers, or for grandparents, right? And Baba Arnold in our planning interviews reminds us of that. Today here we're talking about grandfatherhood, but equally important is creating an opportunity to uplift grandmothers. And so wanted to acknowledge you, Bob Arnold, for reminding us of that. But if there are challenges, that we can learn from, that I can learn from, that our listeners can learn from, I'd like to invite you, brother, to share. You're muted, brother Nani.
One thing I do want to share is that, some of us here never thought we were going to be grandfathers. So we didn't practice to be grandfathers. We didn't read a book or anything about grandfathers. All we had that was the what we saw within our grandfathers or fathers and or old uncles, and sometimes Brother Arnold said some of those things were not very comfortable. What we saw of our grandfathers. Especially, I want to talk about the La Vida Loca, the grandfather. I said my grandfather was a Pachuco. I remember seeing my grandfather do some stuff that I was going like, wow, my grandfather's bad. I thought, man, he had a good right fist, and that's how he would control his 11 kids sometimes. I saw my father get beat down by him, but the respect and stuff that my father had for him was amazing, of all my uncles and within my father himself, he being a grandfather, of my children, I liked him at the end, but at the beginning it was hard to, he was raised that way. He was raised in a way that he, today they would call it abuse, but we were calling it en línea, ponte en línea. It wasn't like not only my grandfather, but my tios. I got whippings by my tios because they saw me doing wrong, and they had the authority in the labor camp to discipline us without my dad saying anything, or my grandfather bringing, if his sons had a problem with another family, he would go get the father of that family and come in and have his son and his son duke it out right there in front of everybody and settle it, squash it, and then go have some beers and stuff. So that those individuals at that time, it was like La Vida Loca was not as crazy as it is today in this way, but they had their they had their grifa, they had their pistols, they had the music, the dance, the women. It was like when you see the old movies like Cotton Club and even in Mi Familia and some of that there were some party people. And things happen at parties that, that my grandfather was involved, that my father was involved. And do I judge him by that? Today, you can't even do anything. People be judging you for everything. But there's a lot of stuff that those that are judging their grandfathers or fathers or tios, if they were in the mix, stuff was happening. Stuff was happening back then, but what they did have was familia. It didn't matter what. It was familia. I come from a drug dealing family. My grandfather never dealt, but all my dad carried, balloons in his pocket, and so did my uncles and stuff. and there was stuff that comes along with that. Now, were they bad grandfathers? They were doing what they did have to do to survive. And I always looked up to that they kept themselves clean, they kept themselves, respectable. But some of the things that they had to use today, people would say, well, they were this and that. Don't judge it. Don't judge that, because you weren't in those shoes. And even today, a lot of times, grandfathers are having a hard time. I'm having a hard time trying to deal with my own grandchildren, but I got a whole bunch of other grandchildren that don't have grandfathers, especially going into the penitentiaries. That's a challenge. And Arnold and those that have been going there, because they all want you to be their grandfather. They all want you to be their dad, their uncle, or someone. Listen, it's like that song, what I said about that song, Daddy's Home. They see you as a father figure. I got a letter just came in today, right here. One's from the county jail and one's from Salinas Valley. And I got another one over here, and I got tons of them from Pelican Bay. They see me as a father, an uncle, a grandfather. And so we hold that responsibility. And I'm not gonna stay here and say, you know what, I'm a straight grandfather. I'm not. I've made mistakes all over throughout my life, But the way that I walk through today is because the teachings of my grandmother. My indigenous grandmother said, mijo, you have something else. And so I try to, the challenge is try to work with everything that went on in this life and try to make it a little bit better. So that maybe my second, third generation down the road, they'll get it together. But as a grandfather, sometimes it's hard. And I'll close this one was this. Yesterday, I went outside this building and I saw my carnal, my little brother, the only brother I have left. And he's going through some stuff. And I saw him, he had his head down and he was like lost in thought, because he's having he's forgetting certain things. He doesn't talk very much. And I saw him and it was hard. It was hard to see him. My question was, should I go over there and sit next to him in the bench, or do I finish doing what I gotta do? And I went and finished what I gotta do, and it bothered me all night. All night. Because not only do I have to be his brother, I have to care for him. Sometimes as grandfathers, they didn't prepare us for that. They didn't prepare us to take care of our brothers. We're supposed to take care of our children. So that's a challenge. But on top of that, there's a lot of good stuff, that offsets that. But I just wanted to share the from a Vato Loco grandfather, father experience. We had a different lifestyle.
Nane, I just want to thank all of you, all of the three of you, because what you bring to light is the reality of life, and that when we grew up, our dads and our grandfathers, we started off talking about family and identity. Well, it was dangerous to identify who you were. It was dangerous to be who you were, because of the racism and the oppression. And I think some of our grandfathers and even some of our fathers, our mothers, didn't want us to have it so hard, but they didn't know how to deal with the pain. They didn't know how to deal with that pain. And I saw my daddy treated certain ways. I saw the racism directed at him, and he had a choice. He could have knocked that fool out, and he sucked it up. And I judged him when I was a kid and saw that he sucked it up and didn't, go off on that fool. I judged my dad. I said, man, you can't handle business. I didn't understand that if he would have went off and socked that store owner like that, they would have arrested him or whatever would have happened. So I appreciate you mentioning, Nane, the woundedness that many grandfathers carry and fathers carry, and not to judge them because, we're not in their shoes. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge, you know, the ability to do the work, to do the healing. We sit here today because, you know, we have had the blessing and the privilege to do work, to do a healing that has come from our culture, that has come from our people, that's come from each other. You've helped me. Each one of you have helped me by just being an old friend, you know, just being able to talk this way. We need each other that way, you know, and we've been able to sit in circle, to sit in ceremony, to share, to let go of stuff, to laugh together, to listen to those oldies together, you know. And sometimes, yeah, we will repeat the same thing over and over and over again, you know. But and some people may say, oh, the guy's getting old, he's saying that same story, that same teaching over, you know. And I'll share with you what you know, what I told my son when he said that about my mama, saying, why does grandma tell that same story? Is she crazy or something? I said, no, mijo, you don't have the lesson yet. Go listen another time, because there's going to be a day in which she's not going to be here, and you're going to have to tell the story. So I appreciate sitting here, that we're recording this, because all those that are listening, is be a day in which we're not going to be here. You're going to have to share the teachings. You're going to have to share the medicine. You're going to have to be tolerant, and you're going to have to be non-judgmental that way, you know. And you know, and so I appreciate this time and these teachings, but I know that it's because of the sacrifice of those ancestors that came before, that regardless of what went on in their life, they didn't forget who they were. They didn't forget the teachings. They didn't forget them. Yeah, there's the other side too. You know, we struggle, but our role as grandfathers is, what part of what our daddy and our grandfather do we leave behind? You know, and on this screen right here, there's 4 other men that have been doing their work and have left some of that carga, some of that baggage behind, and are teaching these next generations a different way of being.
Thank you, Maestro Jerry and Maestro Nane. You know, there are a couple of things that are resonating with me, and that I want to just acknowledge that, you know, some of us didn't see ourselves living past 16, let alone 18, let alone our 20s or 30s, now in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that lack of preparation. Like, if I'd have known that I was going to be here, that I was going to get there, you know, would I have been better prepared, right? And that preparation is ongoing. You know, you talk, Maestro Jerry, about what is the work. The work is ongoing. It's continuous, right? It's reflecting on what can I do better, right? And knowing that the work isn't easy. You know, I oftentimes share with folks that my 2 older children got the more wounded part of me. You know, the unprepared, the baggage, and my 2 younger ones are getting a different version of me, right? They're getting someone who has allowed themselves to do the work and to let go of some stuff. But I'm still a daddy to the 2 older ones, right? And I recognize that the work sometimes is reflection, can entail and incorporate forgiveness, you know, apologies. Forgive me if I hurt you. Forgive me if I hurt your mother in the process of raising you. I didn't know any better, right? I didn't have the elders. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the people to support me. But I'm willing to do the work, right? To show up in a good way. And not so that my grandchildren can benefit all the reaps, but that everybody in the familia can benefit, right? For me being in a better place and doing that work. So I want to appreciate all of you for sharing that. But, you know, Maestro Jerry, if I can invite you to share with us, you know, how do we show up as loving and caring grandfathers? You know, I know the hallmark responses, right? Show up and play with the grandchildren and push them on the swing. But I think there's some other teachings that are left out in how we show up for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, you know, and I think it's the preparation that you mention every day. You know, I begin my day with prayer, connecting with Creator, connecting with ancestors, asking for help. You know, I think, you know, and I know that one of the major blessings of being a good man or being a good grandfather is honoring women. You know, and so that becomes a teaching that is really important, because, you know, as I prepare, you know, am I living my life in a good way before I get to the grandkids? You know, because they're gonna know, they can tell, you know, And they can tell, these grandkids can tell whether they want to sit on your lap, whether they want to play with, they have this intuitive way of being, you know. But you know, I there's a story that of my granddaughter, you know, she wanted to play with me, and I was really tired and I was doing work, and Tata, can we go out and play? Ah, yeah, I mean, okay, a little while, 5 minutes, and 2 minutes later, she doesn't know 5 minutes. Can we play now? Okay, we go outside, we're in the sandbox, right? And she's wanting to play in sandbox, making cakes to sing songs, and you know, my back's hurting, man. Equally, you know, I say, do you want to go on the slide? You want to just get up and run? No, Tata, we got to sing to everyone. Oh man, it's just like, dang, you know, and but what I didn't realize is that, you know, the privilege, she wanted to play with me. She brought me into her ceremony in that sandbox, and I'm worried about my back. And she says, Tata, sing with me. And once I started singing with her, that's her sacred song. And once I start singing with her, it's amazing because my back stopped hurting. She healed me. And one of the things that I realized, those grandkids can heal you. You know, and then she says, Tata, I gotta go to the bathroom. Okay, vámonos. And we go inside. Oh, good, I can get up now, you know, and I get inside. I said, she's gotta go to the bathroom. I told my daughter, and she says, no, Tata, you take me. I said, what? You take me. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't know, should I do that? Because when we grew up, we're not supposed to, you know, with the little girls, nothing. And my daughter says, Dad, take her. And I knew some healing had gone on because my daughter trusted me too. And my grandma, so I took her to the bathroom, and she knows what to do. Just go in there with her. So I went in there with her, and she got on the toilet, right? And I was afraid she was gonna fall, so I'm watching her. And then she says, Tata, now get out. I said, what? She says, get out. I said, what? She says, I need my privacy. I said, what? This 4-year-old, what does she know about privacy? Well, at 4, she already knew. She already knew what she needed. She already knew about boundaries. She had a voice, and she trusted she could say that to me. When I grew up, I said to my grandma, I would have been across the room. But we had built something in playing, in being together, that she could speak her truth, tell me what she wanted, and I got out. I followed this 4-year-old girl's instructions, but I was listening. I was listening. And then about 2 minutes later, Tata, come back in. And I come back in, and she's there pointing to the toilet, big old piece of caca there, and she's clapping, look at, I made a big, you know. So we're clapping over shit, you know, what are we doing here? And then I get the lesson, I get the teaching. And the teaching is, if you can't handle her caca at 4, she's not coming to you at 14. And at that moment, I realized, you know, all the ceremony, all the prayers, all the healing that I had done all these years, made something different in the next generation. That's what Nana's talking about. Baba Arnold, that's what Papa Bear's talking about. We do this work so that, you know, our grandkids can trust us. They want to love us. They want to be with us, but it takes work every day, you know? And it's knowing what to water and knowing what to give up. You know, my dad was a drinker. I mean, you know, you heard that, you know, my kids don't know that. Because every time I heard that beer can, I was wondering whether there was going to be violence, was going to be pleito, and I got scared, and I got nervous. I didn't want my kids to go through that. So I don't do that. My grandkids don't have to worry about that. What are you willing to give up so that your grandkids can love you, trust you, and want to be with you? That's what I share.
Appreciate that, Maestro. And I'll open the floor for whoever wants to contribute. But as you were sharing, Maestro, in reference to the teaching and how we show up, what has been present for me, mind you, my grandchildren are still small children, are second chances, right? As a grandfather, I get to give second chances. And oftentimes we didn't afford that to our children, right? You know, when Maestro Nane speaks about, you know, how our parents were raised, or grandparents, right? And falling in line, being in linea, oftentimes they're very stern and very strict. And in my role now, and what I've learned is that we are all deserving of second chances, right? That some of us are here because we've been given a second chance, right? And so I believe that part of what supports us showing up in a loving and caring way is showing up to give second chances. And some of us, like me, 10, 12, 20 chances, right? Before we get to the lesson, before we work things out. And so, you know, it takes us a number of times before we get it right. But if any other of the relatives here want to offer a response to that, I welcome it.
You know, my showing up for our grandchildren, showing up as a grandfather. I always, I try to show up for events and stuff and be there, and I don't have to speak. I don't have to do anything. I've done a lot of that already, but I just want to be there so that people say, because I think all of us here have been at places where we're the oldest ones there. And you look around, I'm looking around for, okay, because, yeah, even though we know a little bit of what's going on today and stuff, but we're not there. We're way beyond. And, I show up like when I get off of work here, right behind the center is basketball. And I see my grandson, Andrew and Jesse. And I go out there and I throw the ball with them and stuff, and they're really happy. They're happy to see me. They run to my granddaughter Aliyah. Every time she sees me, she'll be across the courtyard, and she runs over to me to give me a hug and tells me how her school went, and a lot of times I didn't even do that with my children, and so that's why I'm very proud of my two sons and my daughter, that they've taken the time to spend more time with their children, have that. And a lot of us that started in this movement, we had to go, we went, and a lot of times our own children suffered from our absence, and so as we go along, and we face certain things, the other is like, how do I show up for my oldest grandson, Anthony? He's been locked up since he's 17 years old. He's 28 now, 28, 29. And I show up when I can to go visit him, because he's been down the road in a level 4 prison since he's been there. Then 9 people have gotten killed. So it's real tough. And I found it really hard as a grandfather to go and visit him at first. At first, I wouldn't even drive through Soledad. I'd go all the way around, Highway 5. So I wouldn't drive through the prison that he was in. It hurt me so much. But, time, and then going, talking to him. But what I found myself when I went to go see him several times, we were talking about survival, how he was going to survive in the prison yard, of a level 4. When we're having a conversation of this, when other grandfathers are having a conversation with their kids of what university they're going to go to, what job they're going to go, what's the promotion they got. And here I'm telling them how to, after a shower, in order for his towel not to get so wet, how to scrape the water off his body. And so that when he dries, that towel's not going to be as wet as it normally would. And he says, Dad, how come you didn't tell me that one before? It's like having these serious conversations with our grandkids about what's going on the street is hard. And you want to say so many things, you want to do so many things, but that some of the stuff that we believe in, we fight for in there is a whole different world. And it could get him hurt. So I back off to what I can relate to him. So it's in that way, showing up means a lot of different things, but I show up, I make sure that he doesn't have to borrow anything from anybody. And also all my other nephews that I send money to or send them a packet, so that they don't have to do what people do sometimes. It gets them into stuff in there. Yeah.
One of the things that I often think about, and for the 4 of us on here, we're also grandfathers of the community. So being a maestro or being a baba is a serious proposition, and one that you either take seriously, as the name implies, or you just say it casually. And for me, I think for us, knowing the 3 of you, that it's something that we take seriously. I say things to my grandchildren that my children don't feel comfortable saying to their children. whether it be about marital issues, whether it be about personality issues, because I know that I take the responsibility of being the patriarch of the family. And that's a serious, position, but it's also just as serious for our young brothers and young sisters in the community, that we show up for them, that we're consistent for them, that we answer questions for them. I had a second opportunity. Some of my colleagues here know that I had a bypass a year ago. And it's the first time that I ever in my life asked myself, am I going to make it through the night? And when I made it through the night, it's made a difference in my life. So I realized that we live moment to moment. We often talk about what I'm going to do next week or what I do last week. There's a saying I used to say in the 60s, yesterday is today and tomorrow is canceled. Or the past is history, the future is mystery. The present, the gift we have now is a present. And so I've been encouraging young people to live right this minute and to enjoy this moment, because life is a journey and you have no idea where that journey is going to take you. So it's about being prepared, about helping our young people be prepared for whatever their journey is. And I think that I think of it coming up out of a puzzle, blowing, and then going back down into the puzzle. I recognize that as a grandfather, that I'm going back down into the puzzle of life. But it's taken a while to understand the preciousness of life. So even though young people can't fully understand that, I think it's about planting the seeds in their lives, so when their forests grow, they do understand certain things. And I think it's our responsibility as elders to help till the soil, so the soil is fertile, and to help them plant their seed, so when they grow up, they'll know how to handle the winds, the fire, the rain, etc.
Thank you, Baba Arnold and Maestro Nane. I do want to acknowledge all of the comments and affirmations that folks are dropping in the chat. Really appreciate you all sending love and your comments in that way. The next question I wanted us to be able to share is, and if I can ask you, Papa Bear, is if there's any advice that we would give to someone who doesn't necessarily have a connection with their grandchildren, or if the grandchild doesn't have a connection with the grandparent, is there anything that we can offer to support them in cultivating one?
That word advice, I'm not very comfortable with that. Even as a psychotherapist for many 22 years, I don't give advice. It's one of the most dangerous things to do. But I will share stories. I will share thoughts, And I think that a lot of the acknowledgement, like Jerry and Nane and Baba Arnold were talking about, is about the women. The women, in the family, the women are the most resourceful part of the family. In our area here in Wanakawa, Pupaco, they're never credited with or acknowledged about the creation of this nation. Our people. My granddaughter, resourceful at 5 years old. I mean, even if they're young, Ozzy, she comes up to me and she says, Papa Bear, do you have any money? I go, Kylie, I'm gonna get paid, let me see, in 8 days. My Social Security check comes in and I'm gonna get paid and I can take you to the store. You can take me to the store? I said, yes. And then she walks out of the bedroom into the kitchen where Sylvia Ann is, her grandma, and she says, Grandma, can you give Papa Bear some money? Now here's a little 5-year-old that as a resource, okay, I got somebody to take me to the store. He doesn't have any money, but I know who's got money right now. And they're continuing, they're always doing that. So it's a challenge. It's, and with the foods, planting the seed with the foods, the tamales, the fried bread, whatever it is that I'm spoon feeding them. That's one of the things. One of the things that a lot of times when my grandmother and grandfather wanted to talk to me, the first thing they said, sit down and eat. And I go, I've already eaten. Sit down and eat. And when I was eating, they were like telling me this advice. And like Nana says, I had two grandfathers that were like that. Hey, Grandma, Grandpa's out in the grass. I think he's dead. No, he ain't dead. You just leave him there. Well, he was, a hard night, But I think the things that I saw them do, my grandfather and my father, taught me, like Jerry was saying, how not to be. I made a choice how not to be. And growing up in the 60s, for me, the biggest technology was television. I was like, wow, I was a TV bug. But every family show that was on television, I would be looking at it and I'd look at my family and I go, that's not us. Father Knows Best, Donna Reed, where's my family, And being that invisible way, my father and grandfather, they, we'd go to a state park and I'd say, hey, I think we need to get a permit to camp out. We don't need none of that stuff. We're going to go in. I mean, it's like rules. It was survival. We're going to go over there. Of course, when the park ranger came out, you all have what's that? It's like and I would watch them. I go, I just told them, but how they did, it was a way of survival, So I learned that as a young father, when I was unemployed and I didn't have food and I'd go to the food bank. Did I already give you cheese? No. And I hide the other cheese and then get that one, because I said, if I can get 2 cheeses, that's more that, I could share with my mom or I could share, with our family. So I think that one of the things is that we're all looking for a connection. The men that are writing Nane and he's writing them back, they want a connection. I write to family members that are in prison. You know what? If you have family members, everyone's listening, in prison or friends, get their SID number, and write to them. Because when that letter comes in, it's like, I can't explain it. And when I would go visit, take a lot of change. I would take a lot of quarters because there's machines there. And I would get chips and whatever, sodas, whatever they need. And they put that for their commissary. Anything that comes in from the outside, it's the grace or providence of the Creator. And I think that a lot of times, one of the things that I challenged it was like, I knew what a father was. I helped conceptualize a fatherhood program at Avance Head Start, and now with American Institute of Texas, the San Antonio Fatherhood. I used, but a grandfather, this is different. The only thing I had was what Nane had. Like, I don't know, my apa, it was different. My tios, And I think that what happened with me is that I started to cultivate, okay, this is what I think. But I was afraid because we have children, and some people may not like what I'm going to say. They disappoint you. They just do. It's their natural growth. They disappoint you. You may be okay with it, but way in the back, you're like, I wish they would have. And then you got to remind yourself, With grandchildren, it's the same way. It's a bigger reminder. They're not your kids, And my wife is, you know what? We should. I said, they're not our kids. So we have a different role as a grandfather, and the role that I'm in now, we're taking care of our last elder, the last one, Sylvia's father. I'm over here at my house, but she's over there, and her sister's over there, and I'm off right now for this. If you would have told me when I was dating Sylvia Ann that I was going to be taking care of her father of all his needs, I'd have said, you're crazy. There's no way I'm going to do that for him. You know, I'm doing that. You know, from the morning to the night, taking care of it. You know, and I remember when I would go over there and date her, I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go home. I wanted to stay there with their family. And she would say, "It's time to go home. My dad's telling you need to go home." You know, but I really think that the grandfathers taught me how not to be. But like Nana says, some of the survival things that they taught us, how to tie knots, how to do this, how to repurpose things that come in the dumpster or whatever. Hey, don't throw that away. Don't throw that. We can still use that. How? It's no good. They threw it in the trash. Listen to me, just give it to me. And they would repurpose it. I think that, you know, the stories that I'm sharing, that we're all sharing, that's going to be the medicine for those that are wanting that guidance, you know, wanting to set up a relationship with their grandfather. My relationship with my grandfather is probably what some of the people are experiencing. He didn't want to get you emotion, you know. He'd be with my tios, and they'd be, you know, and they'd be there. Come over here. Give your grandfather a kiss. Give your grandfather a hug. Tell him how much you love me. The next morning, I go, Grandpa, I'm gonna give you. What the hell's wrong with you? Get over there. You know, it was like, and I didn't understand it as a child, so I didn't do it anymore. You know, now my grandchildren come over, they give me these hugs, and they tell me I love you to the moon and back. And I said, no, I love you more. I love you all the way to Saturn. Where's that, Papa Bear? And I had to tell them and explain to them. But I think that that's kind of I want to share that, you know, and in that, maybe they can establish that relationship with, you know, I love what Nana said, you know, I have a lot of kids and a lot of men that come up to me and show me their children. And it brings me to tears of the things that I didn't think I did anything special. You know, I still know how to do that, how you taught me, sir. So I think that that's the thing. There are men out in the community now more than ever that are willing to, like Baba was saying, being a grandfather to, you know, children of other grandfathers and other mothers. And we can do that. They all want that connection. Tamok.
Tamok.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Papa Bear. Did you want to add to that, Baba Arnold?
Only to say that you asked for advice. I'd say that if you can identify someone in the community as your grandfather or your grandmother, there are those people out there that you admire, and you don't have to tell them, I want to be your grandchild. I mean, you could just watch what they do and kind of live by the messages that they give, because, you know, there are people in the community. I have people in the community now. I'm 80, I'll be 81 in a couple of weeks. There are people in the community that I look up to, I look over to, you know, and they guide my life. Some of them are younger than I am, and some are older. So I identify people that I feel I could benefit from their presence, their energy, their beliefs, their convictions, their courage. And so I just want to encourage folk to think about folk that you know, that you really think highly of. And always keep in mind that none of them or none of us are perfect. We're not. We're, as I talked about the journey, we're all learning as we go along the journey, every step. So, for example, we've all learned something today on our journey. And the question is, how will I actualize what I've learned? Because it's, I think of life as a puzzle, and there are many, many pieces, and we begin fitting those pieces in. Those pieces make a picture over time. Initially, we can't see the picture, but if we're consistent in putting the pieces in place and querying, does this go here, does that go there? Over time, we fill in those pieces and we have a beautiful puzzle. And it's our responsibility to create the puzzle that we have, along with our community's responsibility to help us create that beautiful puzzle.
Mm.
You know, Ozzy, if I can mention something to tag along with it, because I think that as people are listening, we live in a society that does not honor elders. It does not honor the old folks. And in fact, there's many folks out there that, you know, the whole focus is youth-centered this and this, and they invite us in to come to a prayer, come to a teaching. But that's purposeful. Moving us out, moving the elders and the wisdom keepers out, the grandmas and grandpas out, you know, is purposeful, because so we have some longevity and understand what's going on and some wisdom. And the system pushes us out. So youth are just by themselves. It's just youth led. In fact, it gets in their head and say, we don't need those old people. No, they don't understand. They're not closest to the, you know, the what's going on now. You know, I think we need to be careful with that too, because our traditional way is generational. For everyone, as Bob Arnold said, elders, the young people, and even the little ones, you know, together. And I think that's part of honoring elders, is part of, you know, recognizing that we still have a role. There's still a place for us in terms of, you know, dealing with racism, with oppression, with injustice, you know, all of that, but also more importantly with healing.
I appreciate that, Bob Arnold, Papa Bear, Maestro Jerry. Go ahead, Nane.
Thank you, Jerry, for saying that. Thank you, Arnold. You know, I think that there's a couple of things that I wanted to address. It was people were asking. How do we deal with addiction? You know, addiction within our family. We all had either ourselves or someone in our families. We've had to deal with addiction, and that is very. If you know, I lost a brother. One of my brothers died of a heroin overdose. Several family members died of overdoses and alcohol and that. And, you know, my grandfather was alcoholic. My dad was alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. I was an addict. I came back from Vietnam as a heroin addict. But today, you know, because of my grandmother's teachings, I've been clean and sober for 36 years, you know. And I want to talk about the physical emotion. Your grandfather might be there, your Theo might be there, but emotionally they're not. And I think that's what I saw yesterday with my brother. Physically, he's walking around here, but emotionally he's not there. And they notice that, and he's going through his own stuff. And a lot of times we those are things that we just have to accept, that that's what's happening in our familias, you know. And I'm very into the peace warrior, and that's what I've dedicated my life to, is to talk about peace and continue to pressure people, always talk about, but not pressure, but always bringing it up. What are we doing to go back to the streets? Well, you know, I sort of been disappointed in a lot of our brothers that have been coming out of institutions. When we were there like 15, 20 years ago, we were talking about when we get to the streets. Well, when they get into the streets, they all want to own a nonprofit. They all want to do reentry, and they all want to do policy work. And nobody wants to go back to the street where we should be. And so I called them grandfathers for peace, that we have to keep that torch going until something happens and people start showing up at the street. We have to be the ones that carry that. And, you know, some of these younger guys tell me, you know, well, we're afraid to get green lighted. I said, well, if any of us here in this panel is afraid to get green lighted, we had no business in this work from the beginning. You know, and today, tomorrow, you know, tomorrow I turn 73. Never in my life, as we said earlier, that I thought I would be 73 years old, you know. But you know what? A lot of those youngsters, they can't keep up with me. The line of here, they get tired. I went to a car swap meet the other day. I had two youngsters. They go, we going home now? I said, why? My feet hurt. I said, no, man, we got 4-5 rows to go. What you talking about? You know, and then come home and work on the chrome and work on the car and do all that stuff. Oh man, I'm going home. I'm going to go sleep. I said, okay, you know. it's that it's not that we don't get tired. Yeah, of course we get tired, but there's so many things. And then you come to a time where that where you've been is longer than where you're going now. I learned that from my elder Belafonte when he said that, and it hurt me to hear him say that. He says, I got less time over here, Nana, than what I did. So what can I do right now? What can I do for you right now? And I think that's what we're all saying to all the younger generation. What can we do? That we might be able to introduce you to somebody, that we might be able to have a ceremony, that we might just show up as viejos, as older men. And along with those that have our compañeras, the grandmothers come with us, because we all grandfathers made it because of our grandmother.
That's right.
Or else we wouldn't be here, So we honor that. I think that we've learned that, but the last 12 young people that got killed in Oakland were young Black folks killed by young Black folks. The last ones that in our central area, Chicanos have gotten killed by other Chicanos. And I don't care what people say, whether they're afraid to green light it, then get out the way. Because we got to say the truth, tell the truth we're not going against any particular organization or anything. We're just saying that is not the sacred way that we have learned from this. We have lost enough blood. We have to stand up for peace, no matter what cost, I want to see my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, live in peace,
Appreciate that.
That brings to mind, I saw what people are writing, and with the question of the stronger relationship with grandfather. I see the kids, my grandkids in my context, the technology. They come to the house, we're gonna eat dinner, and they're like this, on their phones, on their iPads. So, there's an old saying, a lot of dichos that the culture has, a lot of sayings, anecdotes, One of them is, you can't beat them, join them. And that's what I started doing. I started, you know what? I'm going to start texting these kids. I'm going to start sending them little videos. I'm going to start FaceTiming with them, That's what's amazing about the technology. You can FaceTime it. So I call them in the morning. Hey, what are you doing? and just, joking with them and telling them that I love them and how special they are. I feel like today's technology a lot of times takes that away, and people use it as to keep them occupied. But I think that we could also use it to our advantage. We're using the technology right now. I think that if we can do that, I show my kids powwow moves. I go to YouTube. I said, look, and I get the little kids, the little ones that are dancing. Look, watch that step. Look how they're doing it. And to be able to do that, they get excited because they see another kid their age dancing in the powwow. So being that resourceful as a grandfather, to be able to help them, and be part of that, kind of jump in with that. I think that also what Daniel was said is very true. I call this our reservation. It's a barrio, and there's a lot of what Daniel was saying here. So I make it a point, like I call them the steel, the metal nation. I call them. So there are guys that are living homeless here. So I try to get cans. I try to get metal. I find some stuff. If I'm in my truck, I tell them, look, I'll take you over there and you can pick it up, and then or pallets, because people are really hurting here in the barrio, just to survive, and they're grown men and grandfathers out there, and they get accosted because they're just trying to get enough cans and metal and pallets to eat. So yeah, I think what Nana says, that we have to be part of it. I carry water and chump change when men come up or women come up to help them out, you know. And keeping that in mind, that's the part of the connection, you know. Their connection is different, but it's still a connection. Tamo.
Tamo. You know, go ahead, Maestro.
No, I just wanted to, first of all, recognize that what Baba Arnold and Papa Bear and Nane, what they're doing is the grandchildren are watching. They're seeing what you're doing. You know, we don't, some of the teaching doesn't have to be directly to them. They're watching how you carry yourself. They're watching what you do. They're watching how you are. They're watching how you deal with struggle. They're watching how you deal with disappointment. They're watching how you deal with your emotions. And that's a beautiful example. You know, and Nana mentioned about peace, and Nana and I always talk about that peace and healing. Because many of us grandfathers are still wounded. You know, and so how do we get to that place where, you know, peace and healing is, it starts with us. We got to do our own work. We gotta, you know, do our work daily, all the time, every day. You got to do your work, and you know, and I would say it you know, we talk about this in terms of being a man. It starts with honoring the women. We have to honor the women, you know, the women nation and the women in our lives. And it's not easy, you know, because, you know, sometimes they challenge us, they got their own ways, but, you know, that unconditional love is being patient and embracing them too. And so I think that's the other part is, but somebody asked here about the chat about generation gap. There's no generation gap to love. You know, there's no gap there in love, in being present, in spending time. They may be interested in a different thing in a different way. They do it differently, but you can show up if you show up with love. And you know, for those that don't have a good relationship with their grandchildren, you know, Papa Bear mentioned text. Hey, good morning, I love you, and they may not even answer. It doesn't matter. You know, I share with some of the guys that when we work with men that are behind bars, I give them a notebook. Write every day something to your children, your grandchildren, right? And then on their birthday, give it to them, and they'll see every day you wrote something. Even if you don't have a relationship with them, look at, I thought about you every day. I prayed for you every day, right? But the last one that I want to mention is forgiveness. You know, us as grandpas, we've done some stuff. We got to forgive ourselves. Got to let it go so we can make room to grow. But also we got to forgive those that have harmed us too. And that's what's, you know, standing in the way many times. And the final thing that I'll share is, you know, we have in my family, I got, like Baba Arnold, I got grandkids from every culture, you know, and as much as we advocate and say about white supremacy and all of that stuff, you know what, I got kids that look like everything. And I got to teach those kids to love all of themselves, not just the indigenous, Chicano, African. No, I got to teach them to love all of themselves, right? And that's a hard thing. That means I got to do my work because I'm not always in a good place to do that, right? But I want to offer that and to let you all know that, you know, nowadays there are places you can go. There are círculos, there are places, there are centers, there's elders out there that if you want to learn these teachings, you want to walk this way, you want to do some healing, there are places and spaces. You know, Baba Arnold's with the Brotherhood of Elders, wonderful group of generational men that walk good teachings. Nana with Barrios, you know, Papa Bear over there with AIT. There's a lot of groups now. There's a lot of us and us with the National Compadres, and we're connected all across the nation. Reach out to us. There's no reason why, if you need, you know, support and help, you know. I saw Kenneth Braswell out here doing a lot of great fatherhood. Other people doing amazing work, you know. Israel, a lot of people doing great work. We have an interconnected, you know, kinship now that can really help in this process. So,
yeah, I want to address someone put there. You know, I didn't mention it, but I do tell them, put your phones away. Now they know when they come in our house, at our dinner table, they need to put them away. You know, and I try to distract them. I mean, the kids don't play outside no more. So I got a lot of games that I play. If it's a sunny day, I get the slip and slide. I put my trunks up there. You know,
you slip and slide, Papa Bear?
I slip and slide, and let me tell you, all the way onto the grass. And they laugh, and I think it's getting them back, you know, to doing that, to doing stuff, picking pecans, growing their garden, and I think, yeah, teaching them how to be and manners. They say, I remember Jerry's story where they would get him up. Your aunt is here. I don't want. And he would go over there, and you got to hug the aunt, and you got to say hello, and you got to say, introduce yourself. I think that those are things that are very, very important, and you need to do it, like Jerry says, so they see you do it. Because my sons, I was telling them, you got to clean up your room. You got to clean up your room, and then they came back. Hey, Dad, I saw your chonies, your underwear over there. I saw your stuff in there. So you got to clean your room too. Oh, and I gave it to them. Oh, you all right? Okay, you're right. You're right. And I think that's because we're learning too, and we forget about our own being, and then we get to the point where we're just giving orders. What our grandfathers did, like Nana said, you got to be in line. You got to be in line.
I know we're getting close to time, and I wanted to offer an opportunity if there's something that any one of you wants to share in closing that you haven't had an opportunity to do so, to give you that opportunity. We have a little less than 10 minutes before we close. I have been capturing some things that have been resonating with me that I composed here in the form of a poem that I like to share before we close, but wanted to see if there's anyone who wanted to share any closing remarks. Go ahead, Brother Nani.
I want to make sure that the young people, our sons, elder, young women, that one of the things that we all need to do, but that you all need to do is take care of your financial stability. A lot of us here got involved because somebody told you got to go do this, you got to do that. We didn't ask about, well, how do I get paid? And we just said, if you even asked at that time, they said, no, you're not going to get somebody else, because it was a movement thing, and you just went and did it because you were there and you were involved. But I never thought about that I was going to live to be 73 at that time. And I didn't know what a 401k was. I didn't even know what a checking account was, And so today I always tell young people before I leave, I said, make sure that you take care of yourself financially, of your family, because a lot of us here are struggling. If it wasn't for Social Security or VA, I wouldn't be having anything. I don't even have a retirement plan. But those people that give us resources, anyone that's working the foundation knows. They walk away they walk away with ducats. So it's not like it's their own money. It's not like this. So we have to be putting that into our proposals and all that we need to put some stuff aside. That when Ozzy gets to be 81, he's got to spend some time with his grandchildren. And a lot of us grandfathers are nickel and diming it to make sure that our grandkids go to school, they have the shoes. Now, you got all these torn pants and stuff. So, I think none of us here in this family, our mothers would allow us or our sisters to walk out that way out of the house. I just want to throw that in. But financially, take care of yourself, or invest in something that you're going to be able to utilize. And one thing is like all my lowriders that I have, I wouldn't hesitate to give them up for a minute, if it was for my, to help one of my family members. So whatever you can invest in, do it,
I just want to pick up, I was going to say something, but I want to pick on it. I'm talking real briefly about 5 envelopes. The first envelope is to understand what you owe, what you have coming, what you're going out. The second envelope is choose a credit card by choice because it does something for you. The third envelope is money set aside for investing. The fourth envelope is for something you want to travel, you want to set money aside, you want to save money to do something, buy a suit, buy whatever. And the fifth envelope is what you have left over. And envelopes 3 and 4, investing and in savings, you want to identify, let's say 10%, and you want to do it every month. Let's say you want to put, make $100, you want to put $10. Put it in every single month. If you only have $2, put it in. It's discipline. So 5 envelopes, know how much you have coming in, what you have going out. Identify a credit card and pay it off before it's due. Put money aside for long term. Put money aside for something you want to get, and what you have left over, do. So, Nani, I just wanted to give something concrete, and I want to give a shout out to my sisters. If our sisters weren't here, we would not be alive.
That's right.
Because we could hit it and quit it and move on, and they raised us. So thank you, sisters. Thank you so much for all that you do to keep us going, because you are the backbone. I don't know what the word is. You are the wonderful queens.
The heart.
Spirit. Yeah, right. You are the heart. Thank you.
And we have a saying here that women cultivate people.
Yes.
Like our mother corn.
Yes.
You see the corn grow, it has arms, it has hair. And then you see it when they have a fruit. That's very important, that you have to honor them. But, like we talk about traditions, we started, so I want to end with a tradition story. When you see your grandchildren adopt that word in their life, like what tradition is. So we go to the coast every summer. We go to the Gulf Stream, and we plan the menu. So we have a little meeting. All of us are there. Before we go to the beach, the condo, and then we go, okay, so what's going to be the first meal? And I said, I was thinking, well, we could have maybe fish. We could fry some fish, some catfish. And then both of them, no, Papa Bear, we're supposed to have spaghetti the first night. It's a tradition. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, let's go ahead. Spaghetti, put it down. And I saw that. I said, you know what? They get it. They get it. And I think when you see that as a grandfather, you see they're getting the teachings, and they've taught me how to be a grandfather, because I was scared. Kids disappoint. I was like, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to get close and get hurt. And I think finally I was able to accept that. And one time, again, like Baba Arnold and Jerry, it was the woman in my life that said, something beautiful happened, and they did something for me. And when they were little, and she goes, is that what you want to miss out on? Is that what you're afraid to miss out on? And I go, my eyes welled up, and I said, no, I don't want to miss out on that. So I think it's a jewel, like we all said, to be alive, Tamo.
Brother Ozzy, you had a poem, and I wanted you to close with
share that. Well, thank you. First of all, I acknowledge all of you, and for all of what you shared. It's my hope that all those that are listening can take something from here that supports them in their walk and in their relationship. But I captured a couple of words that I wanted to share out that are resonating with me. And it begins like this. Children of our ancestors, Daddy's home. It was hard at the beginning, reflecting on what I needed to cleanse from and what I needed to carry forward. The challenge is making it better. By showing up in a lot of different ways and providing second chances, we make connections. Saying the things to my grandchildren that my children don't feel comfortable saying. Taking grandfatherhood serious, even though we may have not had preparation. Sharing stories for the wellness and healing of our families with truth and integrity. Actualize what we've learned. Ensuring the next generation live in peace and blessings and experience unconditional love. Our grandchildren are watching. Let's forgive ourselves. Thank you, relatives. Thank you, maestros, elders, babas. All of you that are listening, we will be able to provide this recording so that you have it. I ask that you continue to follow us. We have an additional webinar scheduled for October in addressing domestic violence as a part of our Sacred Manhood Initiative. Again, want to thank you, elders, babas, maestros, for your time, for your wisdom, and all of you who are engaging with us via chat. I want to thank you for your time.
The podcast as well, Ozzy. Yeah.
We'll drop the link tree, which has already been dropped down in the chat if you want to follow our podcast, if you want to stay in tune to all of the work that we're doing. And we look forward to anybody who's interested in supporting any of these conversations or dialogue. Please make sure that you reach out to us. Much appreciation to everyone. All you have a good rest of your evening. Adios.